Aloha, welcome everyone. Welcome to Visionary Souls. It is October 29th, 2025, if you can believe it, in the quantum now.
Hmm.
And I'm here with Steve Noble. Do you say Nobel or Noble?
Oh, Nobel. Yeah.
Nobel, I thought so, like the Nobel Prize for
Yeah.
Galactic Awareness.
Yeah.
It's so
True.
wonderful to be with you, Steve. I've followed your work for years, and I actually want to call myself out because I reached out to you years ago and wanted to have you on Visionary Souls, and then I think I canceled or postponed because I had so much going on, and it was just too much, and I ended up actually pausing everything for a bit. So I'm really
Yeah.
grateful to meet with you on this timeline. And how are you
Yeah.
feeling?
Yeah. I've been very busy and yeah, non-stop with work. I get up early and I keep going until decide to stop. So yeah, got a world to save.
Oh, okay. Let's talk about that. Well, for those of you that don't know Steve, or maybe you've caught his work, but maybe you haven't heard from him directly. I mean, I would call you prolific, and I'll just read
Uh,
your bio here. So, Steve Ahnael, beautiful. Nobel is the author of six nonfiction books. The two most recent are The Spiritual Entrepreneur and Joy at Work. Let's definitely talk about that. He was
yeah.
a director of a not-for-profit spiritual organization called Alternatives, based in Piccadilly, London, for 13 years, leaving on the winter solstice of 2012. Subsequently, he began his own healing and awakening work. He created a healing system called Soul Matrix Healing for Starseeds. He's created a library of free resources, including meditations and transmissions to help starseeds, which are freely available on his website and YouTube. These meditations and transmissions are played all over the world, and so far, a platform has over 190,000 subscribers. He runs events regularly in the UK and overseas. And thank you so much for your service and for I would
Pleasure.
say, the prolific output of, meditations and transmissions and guidance. And when did this calling begin for you? Was it in that winter solstice of 2012? What happened?
Uh, well, if I go back in time, I was always a kind of weird child
Nah.
with weird interests. And as a teenager, my weird interests, you know, uh, superhero, Doctor Who, and then I got into Star Trek. All of these things were tolerated up to a point, but then kind of my family are pretty 3D get real. But I was exploring at the age of 15. I was reading spiritual books and I was looking for something. That was the feeling I had, looking for something. I couldn't find it. So I decided to give up all of my kind of pursuits, which was, macrobiotic, doing yoga when it wasn't popular, doing martial arts when it wasn't popular, just looking for something, reading a lot of books, most of which I didn't understand. And then I went normal, and then I had a waking up in 1991. I had a wake up call, and that from that moment in I can't remember exactly when in January 1991. Yeah, okay, thank you. So then I had a load of synchronicities happen, and they led me to all the important teachers and channels I was going to follow for the next 20 years. So that was that period. So then I was kind of diving in, learning really for my own personal. It was for me, I needed to heal, I needed to clear. And then in 1997, I resigned from my then corporate job after 10 years in some, well, it was a local government job actually. Before that, I was banking. And then I was off on a spiritual path and I became involved in a spiritual organization. I became a director January 2000. And then, it was service. I realized that service was as important as my own path and this service. So 13 years there as a director, and then A Dark Night of the Soul, and then this. When came out the Dark Night in 2016, I started this. I remember waking up one morning and I hadn't had any connection to spirit for several years, and I had a voice which wasn't my voice, and it was like, "Hello, at last, they're
Yeah.
speaking to me again after a long, long silence."
Hmm.
And they told me to get on and start talking about star seeds and ascension. And this was not something I was interested in really at the time. I'm like, what? I'm not interested in that. I was kind of, the impression
Mm.
was get on with it. So I meditated for a couple of weeks and decided, you know what? I think saying no to spirit is just not really much of an easy option. So I said, all right, let's do it. And I probably knew more than I thought I did because I've been exploring metaphysics and all kinds of things. And then I started doing workshops on it, and people were like raving. I thought I was winging it, and they were like, "Wow, this is
Mm.
amazing!" And I'm like, "Is it really?"
Mm.
And it just grew from there. And I started putting stuff out on YouTube. At the early days, nobody saw it. It wasn't that professional. And then I got the message, make it more professional. So, which is what I did. I did some training on sound engineering and video creation. So now
Mm.
they're kind of, I think of them as little works of art. They're my creative art project, you know.
Yes,
So that's,
absolutely. Wow. And like giving your work the Gosh, that resonates on so many levels, really respecting your work because I just got a transmission about this when I was in Vancouver. I taught a workshop. It wasn't really a workshop, it's more at this point, they're convergences. I bring intimate groups together to do very deep field recalibration and presence attunement and DNA healing, and we play and we channel and it's profound. And a transmission that I got though in my own event was that, I am being called to, like, I think what you're describing, really respect my craft more and really pay attention to how I'm presenting my work, especially in ways that I in the past have given things away for free or have kind of almost liked the approach of more being more casual or more simple, but that actually this is not of service. Like to do things in that way is not no longer in service truly to people's transformation because when I'm creating things in a way that respects the output as art as really valuable, it's empowering other people to really receive it as such, and that they are actually being invited to value themselves more, which is what a lot of people are really working on right now, is deeper worthiness and value and giving themselves that space and grace to really receive and remember, through these transmissions that it sounds like we're both creating and trying to support people with. So I thank you for reflecting that because I think I've been in a similar lesson lately.
yeah, true. Well, I think there's a balance. I feel there's a great balance between professionalism, putting out your best,
Mm.
and play. You know,
Hmm.
enjoying it, having fun, and so the energy that comes through for me is meant to be, I'm playing, I'm enjoying the process. I'm not struggling with it, you know. I mean, there's sometimes a little bit of wrestling. I don't really get this, you know, but there's mostly a play, and then the end result of all that play and that work and everything has to be, it has to look good and sound good. That's
Hmm.
and have a not just look good and sound good, but it has to have an impact
Hmm.
of a particular kind. And before I even do it, I need to know what is the impact this is meant to have. If I don't know, then it's very hard for me to do it. Many years ago, I did do some work with a few guys who were kind of also doing transmissions and service. But I'd say to them, they'd say, "Okay, you're working with Bob for the morning session." I go, "Great. What are we focusing on?" They go, "Oh, it's okay. It'll flow." And I'm like, "Oh God, no,
Ah.
it won't." Because we may be on two different pages. Tell me what it, but they wouldn't. So I just had to follow him and just try and pick up from where he was going and trying to bring it. It was difficult for me to do that. I don't like doing that kind of thing. Just
Hmm.
flowing with no aim. I like to have an aim, and then you can flow wherever you want to flow,
Hmm.
as long as you know, hey, I want to get to that mountain, and we can take whichever path we want to go. You know.
Yep. Always start with an intention, some kind of container. I love that. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
very familiar lesson. And so I want to explore this term, starseed, with you. So I'll
Oh
just
yeah.
start by sharing. I think I first heard about it when I came across Dolores Cannon's work a long time ago at the very beginning of my journey, maybe like 13 years ago or so. I kind of track my awakening with when I got sober, which was 14 years ago. And then about a year later, I got really into energy healing, more into meditation, and started having very rapid remembrance of my intuitive abilities and other access points and multidimensional, abilities and things. And I remember Dolores Cannon's book, The Third Wave of Volunteers, and that it just felt like I'd never read anything in my life, that it felt like it was about me, and it was so impactful. And I don't remember if that was in the book I heard about star seeds, but it was around that time. And I started learning about Palladians and Arcturians. And I think the Palladians at first really resonated a lot. I was like, oh, that feels like for sure that's where and I'm definitely not from this planet. I must be from there. And so
Yeah.
it really helped me at the time to give permission to myself to explore my multidimensionality. But then years later, facilitating, hundreds of sessions for people all over the place and facilitating training healers, I don't really use that term. I haven't used it in many years. I don't really personally identify with it, actually. I identify more myself as an omnidimensional being with many different starseed origins, not from one particular place, and that I personally do not identify as being from this galaxy. I think I've come to learn my origin source point is actually from a different realm, which I hesitate to even give English words to. It's more of a feeling realm. And so yeah, I'm just curious, like your take on this term starseed, how it came to you, how you understand it, how you find it is. It's because I do recognize it is helpful. It's helpful for people to have that identifier and permission at a certain point in their journey. So I'd love to hear more from you.
Yeah, I mean, I used it because that was the term I was given when I came with that first conversation about you're going to start teaching about ascension and star seeds, and yeah.
Mm.
So I thought, okay, that's what the guides want me to do. But I had come across the term before with the raw material, which was
Hmm.
channeled in the 70s, I think. Carla, something or other was the channel. I actually met her in London before she passed over. So started talking about it. And I think Ra talked about starseeds as wanderer souls, if I remember. So it wasn't this fixation of, hey, where's my home? Some people have that fixation. To me,
Mm.
starseeds are wanderer souls, multidimensional for sure, which means that we can experience life in different planes of existence, you know, and this earth being just one of them. I met Dolores Cannon 3 times actually, because when I was the
Mm.
director of alternatives in London, we hosted her
Oh, great.
for workshops. And I remember being at those workshops, and it just felt like my grandmother sitting in the corner talking about
Yeah.
aliens.
Yes.
And it was just very, I would look at her thinking, but you look like a sweet grandmother and you're talking about stuff which there was a kind of bit of a dissonance in the way that she looked and the way she was and what she was talking about. Whereas, a lot of people who are talking about starseeds dress up and they look starseedian, they have starseedian names and all of this rest of it. I do think and she was really showing probably the importance of being ordinary and you can talk about extraordinary things.
Mm.
And I quite like that. I don't make any, I don't have starseedian clothes or I don't have a starseed name. I mean, I've met people who call themselves, very galactic names, and I don't really do that. The Ahnael in the middle name is an angelic name, and I was actually I was doing some work with someone, and they said there's a numerological, thank you, problem with your name, and it has to be changed. So I'm like, okay. What if I add an angelic middle name? They go, that'll do it. So I meditated and I got this name, Anael, which is
Hmm.
I later discovered is connected to Venus. Is the archangel of Venus. Haniel is the archangel of Venus.
Mm.
And I'm a Libran, very Venusian, so
Oh,
I thought
yes. When's your birthday?
the sixth.
I'm
So yeah.
October 11th. Happy birthday.
Oh, well, Librans get on. So
Yes.
happy birthday for you. I hope you had a
Aw.
good birthday. I did. I was in Bosnia, actually, the pyramids of Bosnia for my
Oh
birthday.
my
Yeah.
goodness, I feel chills when I hear that. How was that?
That
Powerful.
was incredible. I thought, there was a retreat going on. Some friends were doing it, and I just wanted to go and check out these places. So I did.
Mm.
I went in the tunnels. There's a labyrinth of tunnels, and I went
Mm.
and sat on the Pyramid of the Sun. Pyramid of the Sun is taller than the
The Great Pyramid.
Great Pyramid. It's taller.
Yeah.
And I met the guy, Dr. Samir, who's the kind of discoverer of it, and had a long chat with him. I got his book somewhere around here.
Wow.
I actually interviewed him recently, and the actually those pyramids is because he's a scientist, and it's really interesting because he talked to me about, there was a book written by Robert Bauval, I think, linking the Egyptian pyramids to the Orion Belt. I don't know if you've heard about
Hmm.
that link.
Yes.
But he says, that and what so the three pyramids are slightly at a slightly different angle and a distance. So basically, he took that ratio and those points and put it in a computer or something, and he said, "Show me the corresponding, alignment with stars with that three pyramids." And he came up, there's 4,200 or something different alignments, including Orion's belt. That was only one of them. But then he took the five pyramids in Bosnia, there's five, and they all connect in a Fibonacci sequence. And he
Hmm.
took that sequence and he put it in this computer and said, "Where is that sequence in the stars?" And it's only one place. It came back, it's one place, the Pleiades.
Yes.
So there's a Pleiadian connection to
Oh.
that pyramid. But I did some energetic work and I put a transmission out about it recently because I
Hmm.
do actually feel that complex is super important. But
Yes.
I don't know why, but even more important than probably the
Hmm.
Egyptian ones. And I've got no reason to say that, but other than it's a feeling I have.
I'm hearing
Yeah.
something as you speak about it. So, the Egyptian pyramids I have yet to visit in this life, but there sometimes these ancient sites can become diluted when there's a lot of activity, when people are not actually connecting with the land or doing grid work and protocols in the way that the land is requiring to stay somewhat like activated and engaged fully and tended to properly, although there are many gatekeepers and support people there on, kind of on assignment. And that when you speak about the Bosnian pyramids, thank you for reminding me because those have also been on my radar. And I feel like I've done energetic work with them actually from when I was on Big Island, Hawaii. There's a strong connection there energetically through the planet, where there's certain lines connecting those. Like Lemurian, there's some Lemurian grid lines connecting Bosnia with Hawaii. And so,
Oh,
but as you were speaking, the why you're maybe hearing that the Bosnian pyramids are significant is actually having to do with probably what we should talk about next, which is what's going on now energetically on the planet, which is a dimensional shift into a much higher octave state in the physical, and then all the different, levels coinciding for all living beings, for all humans, for all hybrids, for all extra dimensional beings coming into the planet from off planet. And that energy center is now becoming more that Palladian architected epicenter, which is meant to be an energetic harmonizing station for the planet, is now becoming more activated because the octave of energy on the planet is now more in resonance for it to engage more fully. So it's like powering up those higher dimensional grids, which we're now all getting more access to. And so that energy generation from the pyramid, but also really the energy centers below it are now getting more, they're getting tapped to be used. That's what I can see. And then there's a few other epicenters on Earth like that too that are dormant. We're dormant and they're usually in underneath mountains.
yeah,
Some are at the bottom of the ocean floor under and underwater mountains. And I just saw all those light up as we're speaking. So,
yeah.
how does that land?
Yeah, my favorite place in America is Shasta. I don't know if you've been
Oh, of
there.
course.
Shasta's
Yes. I've
really,
hosted
really.
retreats there. It's one of my favorite.
I
But
do love.
I haven't been called there though. Like I kind of was there where was I last there? July 2023 after my last book came out and I was guided to go there to do just more of a solo retreat, and it felt like a I go there for soul retrieval and kind of energy support when I'm going through deep clearing sometimes and healing. And this time I was guided to go for what I thought was a long time, but then I was done in like 2 days. I went up to the
Oh,
mountain, did my meditation, did some ceremony, and then the guidance was all done, time to
well
go. And
done.
I kind of got
Amazing.
a boot. I kind of got an aggressive like a booting out of Shasta too. They're like, you're done.
Oh, all right. Well, yeah. Well, I was there. I can't remember. I was there for about 10 days, I think. I
Hmm.
was there in 2016, actually. It
Oh.
was a launching. I went there before I really started doing this really strongly. That was so yeah, but the reason I like Shasta is because I think it's above the psychic soup of America.
Mm.
When I was there, I couldn't feel all the stuff going on in America. It was like, I'm like, this is amazing because, down when you bit down more in the plains, I can feel it all because America's got a lot going on right now. You must
Mm-hmm.
feel, not
Oh
just the
yeah.
cities, the land.
I'm in New
In the
York City. I'm in the epicenter of the
oh
chaos. It's wild.
yeah, but America is so important in many, many ways. That's why so many star seeds or multidimensional beings are incarnated there. Teachers'
Yes.
channels. It's got an amazing polarity between a lot of light people and a lot of dark stuff
Hmm.
going on. Dark military, dark politics, dark corporate dark, all of so there's this big dichotomy, and I think that what's happening is star seeds. I'll just call them star seeds. We have different names for them.
Hmm.
Are here to anchor a different light. Are here to talk in these ways and to do the work that a 3D person would look at us and go, "What the hell are you talking? What did you just say? I've got no idea what you're talking about." You know. And so we're here to anchor a higher frequency. We're here to bring in a higher light into the planet, activate grids, do all kinds of work with the human collective and other kingdoms of nature. But the thing is that what's been happening now for the last 20 years at least is that as the light has increased, so too as a response from the dark brotherhood, sisterhood, if you like. And I think the reason that response is there, since 9/11, for example, but even before 9/11, 9/11 was the most, I think, the major kind of moment of forces going, you know what, we're not allowing this kind of what you're trying to do, we're not allowing. That was their response. And then war, and then global lockdown. All of these things have
Hmm.
accelerated, and they've accelerated because the light is intensifying. And the thing with the dark side is that they're pulling all the stops out, but eventually, very soon, I imagine within the next couple of years, a lot of those stops will run out. They won't have any more agendas to quite pull in the same way. A lot of people have been waking up. From 9/11 woke a lot of people up. The global
Hmm.
lockdown woke a lot of people up. So every strategy they do to keep the planet in control actually creates more of an awakening because it's unstoppable, really. And I do see that within, where are we now? 2025. So within the next 5 years, major changes, major changes. Not all easy for sure. We're going through the planet is going through a difficult initiation. Personally, we can go through difficult initiations, which may last a year or two. But the planet is going through, few decades of a lot of stuff to clear out. And all of this stuff's been prophesized. When I was a teenager, I was reading stuff about what's happening now and
Hmm.
reading about the kind of things which would be happening and kind of not, I didn't disbelieve it. It kind of worried me and frightened me a bit when I was a teenager. I didn't have the resources to go, oh my God, how do we deal with this?
Hmm.
But now I look back and go, all of this is part of the game and the end game of the planet. The end game for a new game.
Yes, or it's all the game. It's meant to, and it's maybe meant to be more fun.
For star seeds and doing the work, it can definitely be more fun. There's a lot of people on the planet it won't be fun for sure. There are people that are struggling and suffering, and they won't experience it as fun. But star seeds can, because we can shift our own personal energy, we can shift our own personal reality, we can have a good time.
Hmm.
Doesn't mean we lack empathy for I certainly have a lot of empathy for people suffering in certain regions of the world.
Yeah.
But I'm still planning on having a reasonably flowing, easy, graceful life. There's the inevitable challenges, of course, but they're there and they have to be there.
Mhm.
But by and large, I enjoy going and having tea in nice places and, doing the work and then, you know, going for a massage, having a spa, looking after myself so I can keep
Yes.
keep the thing going, keep the
These are
work
my
going.
favoring things. I like to live in a spa. This is like my the
Oh, I love
sanctuary of
spas.
the soul spa. It's like my
Yeah,
favorite thing.
yeah,
Oh,
totally.
yeah, I appreciate you naming all that. The high contrast. What comes to mind is I guess sharing, I was guided to go to Maui right before lockdown happened. Prior to that, I was spending the whole year of 2019 hosting, planning and then hosting this big convergence of 100, feels like star seeds, but, new earth architects, leaders, hybrid beings, to come together to practice coherence and mastery. And and really learn to collaborate and listen more effectively before we talk about building all these new companies and solutions. And, can we actually learn to be ourselves with each other and be in a different way?
Yeah.
And I put so much work into this thing, and it was also a big grid work project. I mean, it was massive. I'm like, okay, we're calling in some ships, we're doing some big light work for the planet. Like there's certain beings that are going to be coming together in physical space for the first time in this lifetime, that when certain beings are in proximity, that's its own grid work activation that can occur. So there were many, I was like holding space for all of these energetic events and exchanges. And by the end of it, I thought I was going to be launching a new company and an embodied leadership training and all these, I had the whole vision mapped out, but my nervous system was totally shot.
All
And
right. Yeah.
I was burned out actually.
Mm.
It was really hard. That was a bit of a dark night for me. I felt like it brought up a lot of shame. It felt like I had recreated the fall of Atlantis with some of my
Oh,
Atlantean counterparts present, because that was some of the energy we were also alchemizing at that gathering. And then I got guided to Maui. God was like, someone invited me to a meditation retreat, and then 2 days later I'm like, I'm not going to want to leave if I go meditate in Maui for 2 weeks. I think I'm going to move there. And I moved there, and it accelerated so much of my remembrance and awakening. And it's such an epicenter, like Mount Shasta. It's a Lemurian
yeah.
power portal with so much energy there. And then I was directed back to New York eventually, to come back to the belly of the beast, to the high contrast, because
Yeah.
of what you're speaking to, because
Mm.
there are so many light beings called now to orient. Not in Hawaii. I mean, yes, in Hawaii, we all have our different directives, but many of us are being called now on assignment to be kind of in like the belly of the beast, like in these places with the high contrast where there is it's really just fear, where there's the fear agenda and control manipulation agenda
Mm.
playing out. And can we be pillars of peace and presence and calm and help to transmute so that, others just in our presence can see more clearly, make new choices, and get on their own awakening path and follow their own directive. So it feels like such a catalytic time, and I can't believe how fast things have accelerated, even just in the last year, as I'm, tuning in right now with you.
Yeah, yeah, things have certainly changed. Well, I was in London for most of my life and told by channels this is where you're meant to be. And then just before lockdown, I got the intuitive push to leave London. And I was like, oh, okay. So I came and lived by the sea, and lockdown was by the sea, most of it. And I'm now by the sea, and I feel the sea. I'm actually very close to a battlefield.
Mm.
Battlefield, probably about 15-minute drive where I don't know if you know your listeners may know the history of England, some of it, where England got invaded in 1066 by Norman army, and there was a big battle. That was just 15 minutes away. So I've got moved here and have done a little bit of work with this and battlefields and clearing all of that and raising the energy of this whole place. Me and other people are doing that. And I think we're
Yes.
all called to little, around the globe to clear what can be cleared, activate the land. And yeah, certainly I was in banking for 10 years, and that was really the belly of the beast. It was the reptilian heartland, it was really something else. And I didn't know why I felt so out of place. I knew I didn't fit in the system. And I thought, why can't I fit? At the time I had the idea it must be the old boys' school thing, in England, the Eton, because that does play out. But it wasn't really that. It was energetically, I could not handle it. I met my first wife there, and she stayed for 42 years. She was oblivious to it, but I'm like, I've got to get out of here, and she didn't understand it. Yeah,
Wow.
so yeah, there we are.
Wild. Yeah, you get to really see the contrast of maybe like the experience of what so many people are just, living in or going through. And especially now as people are, hitting their own awakening, so much of that can come through the lens of their work no longer resonating. They can feel like they disidentify with how they've been showing up and their routine, and just kind of a crisis in identity and their values. And I've been seeing that for a long time. I mean, that happened to me too, but many people, right, in their awakening go through that.
Yeah, I think. I would say that 3D corporate world does not like starseeds. Energetically, it's like,
Yes.
you don't, they could, this, it's almost like a systemic, it's not personal, it's a system energy. And these
Mm.
systems are alive as well. They have their own energy field
Hmm.
and they can spot a star seed. And, energetically, you're not going to get in the inner circle very, very easily. You're not going to progress very, very easily. There'll be bosses. And at a certain point, you'll be spat out. You'll get an anal boss. You'll get more deadlines. It just becomes more and more difficult. And really, the universe is also saying, "Time to leave. Come on."
Mm.
But I know when I left, both times I left, 10 years in banking, 10 years in local government, both was a big shift. I'm like, what do I do? I don't know what I'm doing, and I had to really trust. The second time round, I had a sense of guidance. I had to really trust, is now the time? Yes,
Mm.
leave. And I said, all right, I left and I resigned. And it was a double rainbow the next morning. And I'm like, I was reading, hey, that's a good sign. I'm sure that's a good sign. It was bumpy for sure,
Mm.
but I know now that I was guided at the right time to make the right moves because everything synced up. It was like you have to wait a bit. I don't know if you've seen the film The Matrix when Morpheus is saying, Neo, wait,
Mhm,
wait,
mhm,
go
mhm.
now. And it can be a bit like that, where the guides are saying, no, wait, wait, it's not the right
Yes.
moment, and now go. So,
Been feeling that my whole life. Yes.
yeah. And if you get the wrong sense of timing, we'll mess it up. Oh, the
Hmm.
guides are telling me to leave. Yes, but not now. Wait. And you have to get
Hmm.
that. Timing is also very important,
And
you know.
listening, trust, patience.
Yeah.
You mentioned going through a dark night, and I'd love to hear about people's dark nights of the
Oh,
soul and what happens and how you get through it, and what was that like
oh.
for you, and any of them recently also.
Uh, so that dark night was initiated by a catalyst. I met someone and that catalyzed a whole process in me. Um,
Ooh, was it a twin flame?
it had all the appearances of that, but it was
Uh-huh.
like one of those things where, you know what, we're not going to be together. We're not
Oh
going to.
yeah.
But there
A
were
teacher.
weird dreams and premonitions and weird occurrences and weird synchronicities. But at the same time, there was also a red light going on, be aware. But I knew I had to go there, and I was still getting the red light, but I still had to go there. So I went there, and I think I had to go through the dark night of the soul. What the dark night of the soul was an existential crisis of the most intense kind. All my anchors, sense of identity left. Who I was, who I was with, what I'm supposed to be doing, what my passions were. I resigned as a director of alternatives because I couldn't hold the organization any longer energetically. I knew I wasn't able to do that. My partner of 12 years, we separated. We're still good friends because I knew that our paths were diverging. So everything, home, relationship, work, all went.
Mm.
So all the external anchors went, and all the internal anchors. Well, I just didn't know who I was anymore. I didn't know what I was doing. I couldn't meditate. I had no sense of connection to source, no guidance. So at the very moment I was in crisis, all the guidance left. It was a bit, I suppose, a bit like, Jesus on the cross, being crucified, going, "Why have you left me?" It felt like, "Hey, I'm being crucified right now, and you're leaving me, and this is the very moment I need you." And for
Mm.
several years, there was nothing, no guidance, nothing. I couldn't meditate. The only thing I could do if I was getting really jangled, and it happened a lot, I'd go and lay under a tree in the park for a few hours, and that seemed to heal. But I was getting a lot of psychic attack, lots of psychic attack, of an incredible amount, which helped me understand, oh, there are dark forces, because I didn't believe in dark forces before. But I started not only feeling them, but by I was being kicked by them mercilessly, day and
Mm.
night, for at least a few years, intensely. And then I found two people. I went and saw a load of healers. Most of them had no idea what I was going through, but I did see two that had an idea and helped me come out and gave me an understanding of how I went in. And that helped me on this work really because I realized,
Mm.
oh, I'd done a lot of the light work for 20 years, and now I'd done the several years in the darkness, and that was an important initiation really. Oh, the most terrible type, it was really dreadful, but important. I
Mm.
think my higher self said, "Well, we trust you'll survive it." I wasn't sure. I didn't think I would survive it. It was so strong, I
Mm-hmm.
did think there was a couple of times I was stood by the River Thames looking down, and I just thought, you know what? The amount of psychic pain I'm in now, it would be so easy to jump. And I something said, no, don't do it. But it was just there was a couple of moments where I thought, you know what? This is just too much for me. But I don't know, somehow I got through it. By hook or by crook, I got through
Mm-hmm.
it. And now I'm able to do this. And I'm able to talk with a lot of certainty about things because of that experience.
Mm.
You know, when people talk about things, for example, people come out with, I mean, thousands of different theories and models and ideas. And people often message me going, "What do you think about this?" And I'd look at it and go, most of the time it's complete BS. I've said, I think personally, please, you know, don't go following that rabbit hole because there's a lot of people talking about stuff which is really misleading, I think.
Totally. I really
Um,
appreciate you saying that. Yeah,
yeah,
I
one
get the
example,
same. Mm-hmm.
you get the same. One example is there's a few people coming out now saying Archangel Metatron is a fallen angel, you can't trust him, and blah blah blah. But I've worked with Metatron for years now, and he was
Mm-hmm.
one of the ones who really, when I'm feeling really attacked by dark forces, I call on
Mm-hmm.
Metatron, angels work with Metatron and other forces, and they pull me out, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know, hey, if this was a dark being, he wouldn't be able to pull me out with these other forces as well. So
Yeah.
I can, having gone in the dark, I can feel the dark straight away.
Mm-hmm.
They may look good, they may sound good, but I'm like, you are not okay. And there are several, most teachers are fabulous and channels are fabulous, but there are a few which I felt them. I go, you know what? You don't know it, but you are so misled
Yeah.
and being misled, you know.
Yeah. Thank you for naming that. I completely relate. And there's so much to what you're saying, and I kind of came to the conclusion after similarly being in a place of kind of a lot of pain. This is about 2 years ago. I had my last book come out, and I had another dark night of the soul of just, I was bottoming out on like proving myself through achievement. That's just been part of my initiation path,
Yeah.
and it just would never be enough. It would never be enough. Like what else could I ever do to prove that I'm enough? It's never going to be enough until I really allow this deeper self-love and God's love, and just so hard to give words to, but just that's kind of been the last couple of years for me, focusing on really rebuilding my value and just sense of true worth and self-love beyond
Hmm.
anything I produce or achieve. But it was very tough after that actually was around the Shasta time too. I was just in that initiation and kind of also had the awareness of I had some attack entities coming in. They were suicidal ideation entities, and it wasn't, don't take it literally, but it was being shown what a lot of the planet was being manipulated by, like these kind of ideation based entities that can slip in and take over if you don't have certain stability built within your being to have the discernment of, wait a minute, what's going on here? I'm not available to be brainwashed or co-opted. But it was very subtle, very insidious, even for me. And I'm pretty skilled, and I was amazed. I was amazed that I was allowing these, or not allowing, but noticing these suicidal ideation entities kind of coming into my consciousness very hypnotically, very subtly. And that was very loud around the end of 2023. And I think that was a collective current also to show people who are wanting to learn the lesson that sometimes the suicide ideation can come because it's actually a former self too. A former self is wanting to die. It's not a literal desire to kill your physical being, but there's this deeper existential, crises of like, yes, becoming aware of these egoic selves or old identities that are so painful and are in some cases sick or diseased, not well, and they do need to be let go of and or like
Yeah.
suicided in a way, but not in the way we would literally translate if we don't have that ability to discern or have support, have help come out of isolation, come out of shame to really get support around some of that stuff. So
Yeah.
I just felt like reflecting that. And then, the other thing around the teachers. So also around that time, my response to some of what I was seeing as we over the last few years have gotten so saturated with spiritual work and Instagram and just I would say the commercialization of spirituality.
Yeah,
Some of my response has been to kind of turn away from all of it and focus on my own healing and my own, just coming back to my own center. But also in a way, kind of just being really turned off at some points. Like, I don't, if this is what humanity is wanting, and these are the people that are famous and most in demand, I don't even want to be a part of it. I don't even want to be associated, which is not how I feel right now, but just to reflect, over the last couple of years, I've had that kind of an attitude. And I think other people that really resonate as being star seeds might also have that attitude, but I don't think that that's actually a way for us to be of service. Like now, what I've come to realize, and my guidance is really, reminding me you got to be out there and be an example of what is clarity and integrity. And even if you're not meant for the masses, which I'm not, it
yeah,
doesn't matter. I'm here to serve and be an example to those who can resonate from my, the shared soul frequency that we have together. And and help them, like help each other. And it helps me. Like I want to share, but as long as I'm running any of those patterns of sharing to be understood or sharing for attention or sharing to be accepted or whatever it is, that's the pattern that had to really be exited in my case. And it was not linear. So I wonder if you
yeah.
relate to any of that or what your thoughts on that are.
Well, ego, yeah, ego,
Yeah.
and the ego. We're all going through the ego upgrade.
Hmm.
It's like the reboot. I hate to say Windows 11. I hate to use that analogy, but we're going through an upgrade. And we're not throwing parts of our ego overboard. We're not doing that, but we're kind of loving them and releasing them to the higher self, going, take them to a temple of healing, do whatever you need to do. But this part of me needs to be completely and utterly transformed.
Hmm.
And some parts of us need to be transformed. Some will be upgraded, and some are so wounded they need to be, completely and utterly transformed because ego parts are energy. They're just, I guess, thought of energy. That's what the ego is. And we're not trying to kill the ego, we're trying to help it relax. And ultimately, the ego going through the upgrade becomes an ally because, we do need some form of personality, but it just needs to be upgraded so it's no longer resisting the higher self. Because in the early stages of the path, our ego goes, "Oh my God, what's this? I don't trust this. Who are you?" But eventually it relaxes and it goes, "Okay, how can I help?"
Hmm.
And that's the process it goes through. Entities, I've heard entities speaking to me and to clients. I can hear them, and what I feel about entities, there's a range of entities
Hmm.
from the earthbound Auntie Jane who's a bit stuck in her home, who thinks, she's still alive, or maybe she thinks she's passed, but she's happy hanging out there. They're kind of more the kind of easy end, and then the other end are the kind of very intense, dark, demonic, satanic energies, and worse, dark ET energies. And so there's this whole spectrum. And what I feel about entities is that they are able, because they're in the fourth dimension, they're able to scan someone and see where their weakness is. If it's guilt, they'll hammer the guilt. If it's unworthiness, they'll hammer that. If it's shame, they'll hammer that, and they'll keep going. And they may put, you're not worthy, kill yourself. You should be you should be totally ashamed of your whatever it is. And they will go for it. And I've heard them.
Hmm.
I went through a particular process, and I heard them for a long, long time, trying for several months. And I just had to. I finally got rid of them. Um, and clients, I could get clients if they've got more the problematic end, those entities will try and speak to me, going, "It's not working. You can't do anything." They'll try and
Yep.
convince me
Yep.
as the person trying to get rid of them that I can't do anything. And I have met a few people that their entities have persuaded them that they're here to stay. And that's difficult then, because if someone's persuaded that nothing they can do will get rid of these dark things, then it becomes much harder to get rid of them
Mm,
because they need to have some sense of themselves. They're liars. All entities are liars, basically. And unless they get that, they can't be a part of their own clearing and healing.
hmm.
But I've only met a few people that were so convinced that they were not able to, and I wasn't able, I'm not here to convince people, I can do what I can do. So it's like clearing these entities out. And the worst end of these entities are well, there's a group you might say who've lived very, very dark lives and are still living dark existences on the 4D plane because they know they're not going to the light because for them the light is the worst kind of hell. Hey, that's punishment, that's being burnt by the light, that's what, and so they're in their other realm.
Mm.
Uh, Teachers, they're because when I first came to the path, I thought, wouldn't it be great if the whole spiritual zone was more commercialized? Wouldn't it be great
You
if
thought
it got more in the
that?
Yeah, I did think that wouldn't it be great if,
Oh my gosh.
more publishers would
It's
grab
your
hold of it?
fault. You made this. You manifested
I'm
now.
sorry, I'm sorry. It's my fault. And I was working with publishers in alternatives, promoting authors for a long, long time. And I got to the place in the early days of that organization. I thought a lot of the people were, you know, totally authentic, but I did meet more and more people who were on the circuit
Yeah, performance.
performance, and they've got a book to sell, and they'll go out and they'll just buy my book kind of
Mhm.
talk. Or there's
And some of them
another
are being
one.
run by entities. Some of them, speaking of entities, some of these very well-known ones out there, I experience as actually having an entity
Oh
running
yeah,
because some of the entities are wanting to they siphon energy when someone's performing and people are giving attention and love or they're celebrity worshiping, they're feeding off of that energy. And then that entity is just siphoning and really is infiltrating someone's channel to filter it and to give people the message that they want to hear instead of
yeah.
telling them what they might need to hear.
Yeah, exactly. I've known a few people, one or two quite well known actually, that are have entity interference.
Mm,
I know, for example, some entities will make their host very successful. They can do that.
yeah.
It's a Faustian trade. I know one or two people like they're doing very, very well. I know one person, international best-selling author, been on Oprah. I went to a workshop and I did like him. I did admire this person, but this is after my kind of, dark night and I
Mm.
was a bit different. And we met in this workshop, locked eye to eye. There was a process going on and his face turned into a grimace.
Oh,
And I remember
wow.
looking at him thinking, oh my gosh.
Mm,
You're not who I thought you were. I thought you were actually somebody else, and actually you are being run by something. He was grimacing in a really strange way at me, as if he
hmm.
was really uncomfortable being in my presence. And,
Yes.
before my dark night, he was fine with me, but something happened in my energy field, and then he became very uncomfortable with me. So,
Exposed.
yeah, there are teachers, and most of them have no idea that
Hmm.
they're being run. Or one person I know thinks she's working with, well, two people I know think he and she are working with light entities. But
Hmm.
I know that they are not light,
Yeah, you
actually.
can
I
feel
can't.
it. So this is really important that we're talking about this. I actually wanted to have one of my personal mentors on to talk about this at length because I feel like what we're now pointing at is very important for star seeds, for anybody on a spiritual path, for anyone also called to be in service and healing and facilitation. How do you cultivate this discernment? I mean, naturally it will happen as you go through these initiations, as you clear density as your field just does the work. You become a radar for truth. You resonate for truth. Things that are not true, in my experience, become painful. They will feel painful to hear. They will feel painful to feel. You'll just your body will respond, and you will just know. And now more than ever, with all the energy shifting on our planet, all of these abilities and this claircognizant knowing, it's getting amplified more than ever. But what would you say are ways that people can really support themselves to cultivate this deeper discernment and awareness of, like kind of false teachings, and especially when it feels very enticing or manipulation agendas, these kinds of things?
Well, our intuition works on a number of channels, but there's three or four main ones. One you could say is instant knowing. You just instantly know. You don't know
Hmm.
how. You just go, and it might be a crown chakra thing that's completely clear and open, connected, and just get it immediately. The other one is a more kinesthetic kind of awareness, and I get this. So I might, for example, there was a book that someone was saying I should look at. I had to look at it, and I'm like instantly, oh, my head
Hmm.
started hurting,
Yeah.
and I know that's off. There's something off about it, and I did tell them
Mm.
this material is off. Or I'd listen to someone. You got to listen to this guy. All right, I'll listen to him, and I tend to not to be able to listen to people for too long, especially if they're
Yeah.
interfered with, and I'm like, whoa, off. I switch it off. So there's the kinesthetic. Some people are also very visual. They might get flashes of something, and I'm sometimes if I've got a client who's got a lot of interference, I might get a flash of a reptilian looking face or something like that. And then there's just the auditory, where a guide might actually whisper something. So there are all these. They're the four main ones I would say: instant knowing, kinesthetic, visual, auditory. So there are other ones, but they're the main, I think. So the more clearer you are with your inner channel, the more you get an instant, the sensitivity thing becomes stronger, and it is painful being in the presence of some people. It's painful looking at something, or hearing something. Like, well, I just can't stand
Hmm.
that. So it's about having a clear intuition, and the clearer your intuition, the better it is for you in these volatile times anyway, because you'll know, a bit like I mentioned earlier with the Morpheus and Neo. Wait, go. It's a very we need an intuition now to know who to trust, who to go towards, who to avoid, what choice is the right choice. And intuition is such a, you can't overrate it really. And if you're in the presence of someone, trust, like the Star Wars, you trust your feelings, Luke. You
Yes.
got to trust your feeling. And if it's probably more for men, this one, if you're than women. Women have this problem less than men, but not exclusively. For a person that's stuck in the mind, and academia and higher
Yeah.
education can do that because your mind is so overly, you know, where's the proof? How do I know? All of this kind of stuff that you don't have an intuition. You're negating it because you're looking for the proof.
Hmm.
And the guides are whispering, turn left, and you're going, yeah, but where's the proof? I need to know. And kabang, you hit something.
Yes.
So women are naturally more in touch with their body, naturally just because of their physiology, more in touch with their feelings. Men are naturally more in touch with the mental body, and the mind. And
Hmm.
so for men or any woman that's more connected to the mind, it's a process of get out of the body, get out of the mind, I should say, get into your body and start doing mindfulness, trusting feelings every moment. It's telling you every moment what to do, every moment
Hmm.
in every which way, relationships, work, money, investments, anything,
Yes.
all of it.
Sometimes they're being like yelled at with the loudspeaker, and if you don't really listen, the body will usually signal some kind of crisis to get your attention, or reality will signal something to get your attention. Sometimes a shock of some kind, or literal crash. And
Yeah,
hopefully not. Hopefully not. We don't
hopefully
wish that
not.
on anybody, but I know I've experienced that. In fact, I was just speaking with someone. I feel like asking you about this. This is just literally one of my earlier conversations today, where, some people that are very experienced guides and facilitators, been working with energy for quite a long time and are pretty aware and attuned, might now, especially now with these different energy upticks, and I'm talking about like what we're in the midst of now, like end of October, November, December, January, beginning of 2026 energies. And what I'm noticing, and what I was reflected to by this pretty well-known facilitator, and someone I feel has a lot of integrity, kind of going through a strange health crisis, like strange health, something getting the attention, and it's having to do with the inner ear and something neurological. And then Western medicine will say it's brain related or something, but my feeling is, and maybe more of her feeling she's opening to, is it's energetic, it's emotional, it's a big field recalibration, it's an opening up of the multidimensional sense as that analytical brain allows itself to dismantle a bit. And then there's
Mm.
just every body is so unique and so different. There will be different ways of detoxing and, recircuiting in some ways as more light flows through our fields. And women have more circuitry than men, so we're naturally more intuitive and more, we just have more is happening in our body by nature of having a moon cycle and being able to reproduce, etc. So especially for women at this time, I would say there's an ultra sensitivity to the energetic uptick happening on the planet. And even myself, I had some kind of strange temporary like neurological thing where I was having kind of a tremor
Mm.
in my arm. And I really it felt scary, but I tuned in about it for a while and I'm like, what's going on? And it's a clearing of control, this like control and gripping along the whole right side of my field, and that tremor was a part of the kind of, they say, off gassing of that density, and it was
Right.
extremely awkward, and it was also happening in weird situations in my physical life to help remind me to be present and to be in my body and to be really grounded. So I'm just curious if you're seeing this kind of thing happening and your take on also just this very current energetic time that we're in.
Well, I think for a while now, the whole process, I think since probably a year actually, I feel the whole of last October, September has been quite intense and it seems to be increasing. Again, I felt in the last few weeks another level of just heaviness, or for me, it's like energetic gunk. I'm like, ugh, what's this?
Mm,
Maybe clearing out my field, and I'm still feeling a little bit of like pressure on my head, which is unusual. So I just, for me, clearing is a daily thing. So I'm always clearing
yeah.
stuff out, clearing it out. And yeah, I do feel for a lot of people, a lot of health, a good friend of mine going through a lot of health issues. I told her it was fine. She's just gone and had a load of tests and it is fine. Um, the body will speak the mind, so whatever the issue, the body will reflect it. And then it can be it's giving messages. Hey, this is something to look at, not just pain signals a problem, but for example, there was someone who had breast cancer and a client. And when I spoke to her, she clearly there's a whole issue around the kind of mother archetype, children. It
Mm,
wasn't her own direct children, but this kind of caring for and this conflict. And I did say to her, that area is being reflected in your body. And she'd gone through the healing, but she kind of totally got it. And so for women, a lot of women are getting, breast issues. Men are getting prostate issues. Some of it is lifestyle, some of it is toxins, but it is also some of it the shift in the kind of masculine feminine archetypes. The old stereotypes from the 50s have long broken down. They're still breaking down, of course, and we have to. And there's in the world, there's been a whole reaction. You've got the whole trans movement and the
mm-hmm.
whole. I created a website once and I put something about gender, and someone said there's 100 different ways of identifying yourself these days, which I
Yeah.
think isn't it confusing, to have 100 different ways to identify yourself. People can identify however they wish their body and their sexuality, but basically, we have two energies that we draw upon. Well, there's the heaven and earth one, but there's the masculine and feminine one, this sacred cross.
Mhm.
And you can't get away from the masculine and feminine. They are there. Even if you call yourself non-binary, you're going to have a body that may relate to one, or a personality that may relate to one, or an energy field that really relates to one. You can't cut them out because they're essential for our being. Like, just like we can't cut our sexual energy out. People try, but it creates all kinds of problems.
Mm.
So yeah, we are going through I'm hoping. Uh, I feel lately a really deep purging again, and it's not comfortable. I wish it would pass. I'm fed up with purging. I want to have fun. I don't want to purge anymore,
Yes,
Sydney.
I
No more
know.
purging. Yeah. So if people are going through stuff, you're not alone. It's very common at the moment. A lot of sensitives, empaths, starseeds are clearing, because what we're clearing out, the more light, we're clearing out family conditioning, we're clearing out ancestral stuff, we're clearing out other lifetime stuff. There's all
Mhm.
of this stuff. There's layers like an onion. There's layers of it.
even other lifetimes off planet and in other, dimensions or universes. And I've been shown, preparation for some of the contact that is incoming for next year and some of my soul family coming into the planet for the first time. And there's been density I've needed to clean out of, my own, like this life and any templates of fear or contraction around, physical contact with beings. I'm pretty comfortable with energetic contact and psychic contact, but then I've noticed some, yeah, even for me, like clearing out of any fear, the programming we've been susceptible to in America in this, timeline, it's been substantial. And so there's a lot of clearing of fear and anxiety and, fear of abduction or whatever it is, especially if you have that from other lifetimes or you've been the perpetrator on the other side in other lifetimes. And so there's
Yeah.
just a lot. It's a full-time job. And also, yes, to your point about, taking care of yourself. And, I really like what you said about Dolores Cannon. She's a strong guide for me, and I just love her presence because she's so matter of fact and
Yeah.
ordinary and I love that. And that was my last solo podcast was just about finding the extraordinary and the ordinary and, really just being present and like the classic chop wood, carry water and like be present for the everyday magic and,
Yeah.
disconnect from extremism of like the high highs or the low lows and just be in this stability. Like that's all I want, honestly, and to have fun in that.
Yeah, I know. Because I lead a pretty life. I've got four granddaughters, and
Oh, wow.
yeah, they're all two of them are teenagers now, and
That's
so
amazing. What a lucky grandpa. That's so cool.
well, they know I'm weird because when they were younger, I used to take them to speak to trees, and one of them, she was about 5. She's now 16. She said, "Granddad, I can't speak to trees like you can." And I said, "What do they
Oh,
teach you in school these days?" And she went, "No, they don't teach us that." I was just joking with them, really,
yeah.
but yeah. I think it's really good to families will keep you real and grounded. Usually, most families will,
Hmm.
if you're in touch with them. And so I love my 3D family because they do keep me very grounded. I watch sci-fi films with my son. My daughter likes shopping and elegant cafes. I like elegant cafes, so I'll go and have an elegant tea with
Yeah.
her somewhere, and the grandkids, the two younger ones, Christmas is coming up, and I can have, the inner child can come out and dance with them, and have fun
Oh,
with them. So I do. It's good. It's good to still be in the world because there are times where I do feel so much spiritual work I'm doing, from morning till night that I feel I'm floating. I actually feel I'm not. I can feel I'm not so much in my body anymore. I have to
hmm.
go and eat something, go drink something, go walk, do something, put your feet in the sea. And I have to, for me, because doing such intense work, I don't know if you find this, I have to
Yeah.
find ways of, this is why
Hmm.
massage and saunas and spa
Grounded.
are so
Yep.
good. Grounding is so important. Yeah.
Yep. We need you on the planet. Stick around.
Yeah. Enjoy the planet. We're here for a reason.
Aw,
We might as well enjoy it,
yes, it's a playground. Well, Steve, this has been such a pleasure. I feel like we could talk forever and ever, and there's like deeper layers of so much you said I want to, explore more. And I'm just so grateful for your presence and again for your
Oh, thank you.
prolific service. And I mean, you've created so much in terms of resource and support and practical tools that people can use now and for free, that people can listen to your transmissions and learn about building their light body, clearing entities, working with Metatron. By the way, also one of my favorite guides and epic and amazing, full of love, beautiful being. So I love that that came up. And just so much support and gatherings and community and even Starseed merch and clothing, which I love.
That's all
I
my
love
art. I
that.
just wanted a place to put my art because
I
I
love
enjoy
that.
doing all this art. So I
Aw.
kind of and to be honest, that merchandise store it just peters on. I keep it because I love it. It's not like I'm not kind of really making loads of money out of it. It's
I
just, but
love
I'm not doing it
that.
for that. I'm doing it because I just like, and I actually gave all my grandkids some of the merch from it, and they're looking at it going, "Oh, granddad,
Oh,
what's this?"
make your little entourage. Why not? Just gear them up. I love that. Well,
Gear them up, yeah.
yeah, as we are just coming to the final moments, I would love to ask you if you have any just parting thoughts or anything also that you're celebrating, that you're looking forward to, anything that you'd like to invite people to check out specifically from your extensive offerings, anything at all.
Well, I have been creating some courses this year, the last 3 or 4 months. I've got 5 courses. One is an Atlantean course, Law of One. One is an angelic affirmation course. One is becoming your higher self. One, I
Hmm.
really do like this one, channeling your book. I'm quite proud of that one. Channeling your book, because
Aww.
I've written several books. And there's another one, angelic solfeggio transmissions. So there's that. I'm doing a retreat in Glastonbury in Beltane next year. I go every year,
Wow.
and I'm going to Istanbul to run
Oh.
a retreat in Istanbul in the summer. So yeah,
Hmm.
and I'm starting to travel a bit more now. After lockdown, kind of knocked the wind out of me a little bit, but now I'm starting to travel again. So.
Amazing. How do you approach retreats? Do you have like a support team or co-facilitators, or how does that look? It's probably each one's different.
Well, in Glastonbury, I've got two, three, 4 assistants. In Istanbul, I've got 2 assistants. So I do need some help. Yeah, I have to
Yeah.
kind of find them. They kind of pop up. I get to find them.
How
So
fun. I love that. Well, great. Well, we'll have all your info and ways to connect so everyone listening can stay in touch. And I just want to thank you so much for co-creating this space. As I shared with you, my intention for Visionary Souls going forward is that each episode is really an attunement, a transmission in itself, where listeners can really feel the sense of authentic presence and embodiment and truth, so that even listening to this becomes a way that you practice cultivating that deeper discernment of what is true for you, what resonates, what might have sparked, awareness to dive deeper into for yourself, and mostly just to know that there's so much support here and you're not alone and you're on the right planet and it's the right time and we're here.
yeah, yeah, I've loved chatting with you, Sydney. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Oh, my absolute pleasure. And for everyone listening, we'll catch you next time. Please go ahead and send me a note if this resonated. Reach out to Steve, check out his great work, and feel free to leave a review on Spotify or Apple or wherever you listen to the show. It helps other people find visionary souls and connect to it. So thank you so much. See you next time.